guys, we're starting off with the blue build. As I announced before on my stash ad video, we're going to be doing 2 blue cars this time. Because I just like driving myself crazy. And the first one is this Pontiac GTO, 64 GTO, which I started a very long time ago. The only thing I really got done was the body. Let's open up the Camaro here and take a look at what we get in here. Haven't opened this up yet, but this is going to be a build for Mrs. Onyx Fierro because she fell in love with this particular car when she was younger. She saw it going somewhere, and apparently it's something that really stuck in her head. So I told you the story in one of my previous videos of how I spent every time I would find a model of a 3rd gen Camaro, which they're all pretty much the same, and I would bring it home to build her dream car, she would say that I got the wrong car. Until I found this kit, which is pretty much the exact same car, but this one she says is the right one, so we're gonna go with that. Alright, let's just crack this puppy open. If I can just get my hands on the plastic here, because you guys know how much I hate to remove the plastic from the box tops. And let's open this up and see what's in the box. Okay, first thing we see are the tires. These are no-name tires. Okay tread pattern. Well, I guess they're going to be okay. Matter of fact, they seem... The tires on the GTO actually have Goodyear on them. So, just average tires. Nothing really special there. We have our glass, all in a separate bag, which is a good idea. Now we have everything else in here. Now, one of the first things I noticed with this thing is that there is no chrome in this kit. Okay, so let's take a look and see what we get with this. Here go our decals. We have all sorts of Camaro striping. Don't know what we're going to use of that, if any of it. Camaro lettering. We have the, looks like marker lights. Z28 markings. I'm not really sure what that circular thing is. Okay, that's interesting. Here's our Z28 paperwork. Your regular revell instructions. And let's take a look at the engine here. We start off with 2 halves of the engine, just like the Pontiac. Except what I'm seeing. Oh, this is kind of odd. You have the top half of the engine molded as a separate piece, but the lower half apparently is part of the chassis. You join them together to make a complete engine. That's a little unusual. I don't think I've seen that before on a 120, what is this, 124 scale kit. Huh, really is sort of a simple kit. The exhaust is all one part. Wheels and tires. The front suspension is basically one part. The rear suspension also. It's going to be a very simple kit from the looks of it. Okay, there we go. Our lights, our windows, seats. What I find interesting is they have you put the interior onto the chassis before you install the seats on the interior. That's kind of odd. There we go. Putting that together. There go our mirrors, which apparently are pegged. Okay. And some sort of a weird mount for the mirrors. I gotta take a look at that. And there we go for the quick look at the instructions. All right, let's open this puppy up and see exactly what we're getting into here. Okay, let's get ready to go back to the 80s. Let's take a look at the body. The body is actually pretty nice. Kind of a nice molding to it. There's a good panel line there. As we all know, the Camaros had that one-piece front end and the rear end. You have the lines there for the panels. The door panels are pretty nice. There's our rear wing. You know what? This is really not bad at all. And I don't really see any mold lines, so there's not going to be much cleaning up on this one. Oh, very nice. Okay, here go our wheels. I'll give you guys a good look at the wheels there. It's a nice casting on the wheels. Look at that. It's a nice molding on the wheels. And I guess this is the mirror glass, but it's not chrome. Okay, that's interesting. We're just taking a really quick look at this because we're going to jump right into assembling everything and getting ready for paint. Okay, here we have our front suspension. Pretty good representation of the A-arms. Here's our stingray linkage, our sway bar. There's our steering wheel. Our rear suspension, which is all one part there. Here's our belt assembly. And here go our engine. Okay. It's okay. It's not as nice as the GTO. The detailing is not really as clean or as crisp on it. And it's kind of basically very simplified. Let's take a look at this interior tub. Oops. Let's see if I can give you guys a good look at that. You can see it. The door molding is a little bit soft on the details, but it's there. And I hope it has armrests, because that's not really going to fly with me. I think I'm going to have to make armrests for it. And here's the dash. Okay. Not anywhere near as crisply molded as the Pontiac is. Here's our... That's nice. You get some nice ribbing there for the air intakes. I think we're looking at crossfire injection here, people. Here's the bottom half of the engine on the chassis. And the chassis detailing is not bad. Here's the top half of the engine. And you can see the manifolds are actually molded to the top half of the engine. As I said, and so is the radiator hose. And I'm going to guess this is our gas tank here. Extremely simplified construction. Here's our exhaust, the hood, and the engine compartment, which is a little odd that it's molded separately. Now let's take a look at that compared to the Pontiac's engine compartment. Now you can see how sharp and well defined everything is in the Pontiac. Here it's all just, it's very nowhere near as sharp and well defined as it is in the Pontiac. And here we have our master cylinder, which is kind of buried into the wheel well, or AC. What I'm going to guess is our coolant tank. Here's our battery. Yeah, the detailing is not really great here. Because if you can look at the battery there, and look at the battery in the Pontiac. Gotta say, it's nice, but it's not Monogram's finest work. But that is a nice quick look at the Camaro. Not a very parts heavy kit. But then neither is the Pontiac. But we're going to get moving on it and start doing a little work to it. And we'll continue the blue build. Working on the 64 GTO. We're back on this project after a long hiatus, and we're putting the engine block together. Now, one thing about the engine block is that it's got a lot of seam work that needs to be corrected. You can see here the seam that goes right across the oil pan and the transmission pan, and you can see how I've got to remove the seam going across. I've already taken care of the front of the oil pan, and I've taken care of the top half of the transmission. So it's going to require quite a bit more work to get the rest of the pan and lower part of the transmission housing to look right. It's just one of the issues with dealing with one of these older kits. So we're going to get back to cleaning that up, and we'll be back with the finished product. Alright, and here we have the finished engine. Well, the block and heads. And as you can see, all the seams are pretty much gone now. Just slight traces of them still left in the plastic, but once I hit that with a little bit of primer, there should be nothing left. Now, this kit is from 1996, and I do have to say that it does have a really good casting. I mean, its details are sharp. Edges are, for the most part, straight. I did have to clean up the front of the engine block because when I mount the front timing cover and water pump, it was uneven, and which meant that the water pump and timing cover, which of course is right here, which is another casting, you can see how crisp all of the details are. I mean, this really is a nicely molded kit, but it wouldn't sit flush against the front of the engine. But I smoothed it out, sanded it down, and if I can put it together with one hand here, you can see how now it sits nice and flush on the front of the engine. Now that's going to need some detail painting, so I'm not mounting it yet. But here you can see how sharp and crisp all of the detail work is on the intake, the heads. So far, I am very happy with the way this kit is made. It's very clean, very crisp. I'm impressed by it. Even the body is also very sharp, very crisp and clean. The details are right where they need to be. If you look in the engine compartment, you can see the battery and everything is molded very, very sharply. Washer tank, all those details will have to be painted in, but it looks really, really good. Even the wipers, the way they're molded into the cowl here, very clean. So overall, this kit is shaping up really, really nicely. Now I decided to start with the engine, which is actually steps 8 and 9, because I haven't decided exactly what direction I'm going to take. There's two different versions of the engine you can build here, stock or street machine version, and I'm probably going to go with the street machine version, which is going to require dechroming a bunch of stuff These are all the trees that are on this kit. It's not really the most parts heavy kit. Got 1, 2, 3, 4 trees. 1, 5, well, including that one small white one, and the windows, which let me get that out of here. Put that up there so we don't scratch them up. And the tires. So it's not really the most parts heavy kit, but it is so far a good looking kit. Okay guys, we're putting together the blower, because we're going to build the custom version of this car, and we're putting together the blower motor assembly, the supercharger blower assembly, which is really interesting. If you look at the instructions here, it's a multi-piece assembly. A lot of it is chromed out. Now I was going to strip the chrome and repaint it, but I've had some pretty good luck with using semi-gloss clear to give the chrome a really realistic aluminum look. So we're going to try that first, and if that doesn't work, we can always just strip it later. Now this is a multi-piece assembly, so we have our blower motor housing, our supercharger blower housing. Just dropped all that. Now that's going to sit on top of the engine. Right here you have 2 pegs on one side and 1 peg on the other, so it's mechanically keyed to only go on one way. And that's going to be it right there. And then the front of the blower goes attached right there. And then there's a rear portion, so we're going to assemble the blower first, and then we're going to send it to paint to see how it comes out by using the semi-gloss clear to give us an aluminum-like finish. Now the first thing I'm going to do is clear off some of the aluminum here, so that when we apply our glue, we'll have a good surface area. You have to be very careful that you attach the front half of the blower motor, except that I think these are mechanically keyed also. Now when I say mechanically keyed, that means that they can only go on one way, because they have small pins or pegs or whatever that allow you to install the part only one way, so you can't make a mistake there. Such as this one has this peg here, which slots into the front of the blower motor here if you don't drop it, so that it can basically only go in one way and sits there perfectly. This kit is engineered very, very nicely. I gotta say that. Now I'm using the Bob Smith super glue because it works great, doesn't fog up. And there we go. We have the front half of the blower assembly installed. Let's just do a test fit on the motor, make sure that everything's going to sit correctly. And there we go. There you guys can see how the blower is going to sit on the engine. Okay, this is the worst of the parts that I have gotten from this kit so far. Everything is pretty clean. This fan has quite a bit of flash on it. which is pretty much the worst of it. Otherwise, the GTO is an excellently molded kit. So we're going to clean all of this up. Okay, and here we have the fan after a bit of cleaning up.
I know we did.
So she's getting there.
And I did the amended B59X, whatever.
Alright guys, just a little tip on how to make your belt drive assemblies look a little more realistic. What I like to do is I thin out the belt itself just to bring it a little more into scale. As you can see here, this part that I've been working on is quite a bit thinner than the rest of the belt. Now, the way that I do that is I generally just take my blade. Let me see if I can keep it in focus. And I just scrape along the inner side of the belt until I get it to the thickness that I like. And there we have a much more realistic looking engine drive belt. I'm going to continue going across the rest of it. These little tiny areas here are going to be a little tough, but we'll see what we can do to make it all look good. Alright guys, now here you can see how I've thinned out the belts. Definitely look a lot better
I can't do
than they did when
Give me your hand.
they were at their full
It's
thickness.
like our black president said, yes, we can.
Alright, and here I am. I'm cleaning all the mold lines off of the exhaust manifolds. And one thing I wanted to point out is that you might want to take off these injector pin marks, as there are 2 of them on the exhaust manifold, which are really easy to miss if you're not looking for them. Right now I'm cleaning the mold line off. You can see the part of the mold line there going across here. So that's all going to be cleaned off so we have a nice round exhaust manifold. And then we're going to just carve off those injector pin marks. Alright guys, we have the engine just mocked up here. I wanted to show you something. The instructions for assembling the engine, which is in step 3, which I'm going to put right on the screen now, show the fan with a peg on the back that pegs into the fan, into the belt drive assembly. Well, that's not exactly correct. The peg is actually in the block, passes through the belt drive assembly when you attach it to the engine, and then the fan actually has a hole, not a peg, and it will slot into, it will actually peg into the engine like so, and this would be pretty much the completed upper half of the engine. And we have the air box for the engine, which will peg right into there once it's in the car. So why don't we compare the 2 engine blocks? There really is no comparison. If you look at both of them together, you can see how much sharper and crisper and how much better this GTO's engine is compared to the Camaro's. On the Camaro, all the molding looks very soft. It's not crisp at all. Let's see if I can bring you in a little bit. Wow, on the GTO, everything is sharp, crisp, clean. So, I think the GTO's got the better engine all around, even discounting the fact that the Camaro's engine is only half an engine, and the other half is attached to the chassis. Now, another thing about the Camaro engine is that it pretty much I can press it all together, and would pretty much just almost go together like a snap-together engine. I thought that was interesting. So this is a much simpler kit than the GTO, and not as well molded as the GTO. But there we have the engine. Now we're getting everything ready for primer and then paint. Alright guys, we have all of the engine components for both cars ready to go to paint. With the Camaro, I'm also going to have to paint the chassis because the lower half of the engine is part of the chassis. With the GTO, it's all engine and nothing more. We also have stripped the chrome parts using bleach so that we can paint them their proper colors. So we're going to get ready to get these things into paint. And at this point, I'm going to end this video because it's gone on long enough. And we're going to start off the next one with paint work. Alright guys, hope you're enjoying this, and remember, if you want to see how this thing got done, you can check out the other videos. The link will be in the description, and you can see the entire process of painting this body and all the nightmares I went through to do it, and then applying the decals, and the little hassle I got from Max the Model Pup as I was applying them, as he guest stars in the video. Alright guys, that's it for now. This is the start of our latest dual build project, and I will see you guys on the next one.